This video will prepare you for the process of identifying your heart virtue through the online assessment. So, we're going to be here for a few minutes, so try to disconnect your cell phone and prepare yourself to not be answering it or be having any distractions by anything outside the room. And really stay focused. We're going to cover these pictures quickly. We've got 4 diagrams to go through, and then you'll be taking the online assessment. If you can do this, do it immediately after you watch this video. So, let's get started. The first diagram is about how our behaviors come from our beliefs. You would agree, right? We behave the way we behave because of the way we believe. And our beliefs come from our values. Whatever's most meaningful to us dictates our beliefs, which is dictating our behaviors. Now let me ask, where do your values come from? Most people would say parents or family or my environment, school, religion, church, things like that. But what we know about the people that were heroes is they were living in alignment with something inside themselves. So notice where those answers are coming from. Our parents, school, from outside of us. What these heroes throughout history did was they lived in alignment with something on the inside. So our values are actually being dictated from inside us, something I call a virtue. The difference between our virtues and our values is that our virtues are so meaningful we're literally willing to die for them. Values are meaningful to us, but we'll sacrifice our values. Our virtues are non-negotiable. So, living life from the inside out, which is what the first diagram is about, means identifying what your heart virtue is, and then living in alignment with that, instead of living somebody else's plan for your life, or having the words and behaviors that you have be intended to try and make other people feel happy, or fulfill others instead of really being authentically what you believe and what you want. And ultimately, if you do that, people will accept you even more than if you try to make them feel good about who they are or if you try to shine them on. So, our first diagram is about living from the inside out. Now, why is it we don't know our heart virtue? I mean, here I am telling you that this thing's so important you'll die for it, and why haven't you heard about this before? Well, the answer is because you were raised by your tribes. We're all born into a tribe called family. There is one word that children hear more than any other word throughout childhood. It's the word no. Second most common word children hear is the word don't. So, here's a 2-year-old. Remember when you were 2, you're like, yes, I love my life, and you're having a great time, and then all of a sudden you hear, no, don't. Now, wouldn't it be great if a 2-year-old could say, excuse me, I realize you have your own belief system, I've got mine, frankly I'm having more fun than you, so why don't you back off, you might learn something. But a 2-year-old can't say that, can they? When a 2-year-old's told no or don't, they sort of fold in on themselves and they go, oh my God, what's wrong with me? And so here is where we develop a blind spot around our heart virtue. You see, it's so painful to know what's meaningful to me and not be able to go after it, that I would rather not know what's meaningful to me. So our heart virtue is being dictated from inside us. It's dictating our values, beliefs, and behaviors from inside us. However, we don't know what it is because our psyche forms a blind spot. For instance, right now you're sitting in that chair, and frankly your butt may be in pain, or your elbow, or your hands, but you don't feel that because your brain shuts that pain off. In the same respect, our brain learns to avoid the things that cause us pain. So the one thing that's most meaningful to us, that we're willing to challenge the system for, but the system is going to give us resistance for, is the one thing that we will develop a blind spot about. We'll forget it. We'll literally take the things that are most meaningful and dismiss them because in order to survive in a tribe, you're constantly sacrificing what's most meaningful to you for what's most meaningful to others. So, we have a heart virtue driving our values, beliefs, and behaviors, but because we were raised by tribes, that's the second diagram, we don't know what our heart virtue is. So here's a scale from 0 to 10. If I were to ask you where your life is on a scale from 1 to 10, what would you say? Most people would say about a 7. That's the normal answer. You might say like a 4, and if you did, that would be low. And if you told your friends, gosh, you know, my life's pretty bad lately, it's like a 2, what'll happen? They'll try and cheer you up. They'll say, oh, it's not that bad, come on. So you'll see that when you're down, your tribes will pull you up into what we call the comfort zone. That's 6, 7, or 8. Anything lower than this is unacceptable, so your tribes will raise you up. But if you tell the exact same people that care so much about you that they'll pull you up, that you have an amazing project that's going to make a lot of money, it's make a huge contribution to humanity, what'll they say? Are you sure you want to do that? You know, I just don't want to see you get hurt. Have you ever done this before? You sure you got the money for this? In other words, they'll pull you down. They don't mean to, but they want you to play it safe in that comfort zone. So notice that when you're living your life at a 9 or a 10, the people that are normal around you will pull you down. They'll pull you up when you're down and down when you're up, and this forms what we call the comfort zone. And here's what's really funny. You're probably watching this video because you can't stand mediocrity and status quo. And that's what you've been trained in your nervous system to live in, mediocrity and status quo. So, what we would like to do is identify your heart virtue so that you can step out of that mediocrity and live up here in this passion zone. In order to do that, we're going to take an inventory of the most meaningful and beautiful moments of your life. So how do we outwit the tribe and their programming? Well, while the tribe has been controlling our behaviors throughout childhood, there are a couple of experiences you have on a regular basis that have been completely unavailable for manipulation. Have you ever been sitting in a theater watching a movie that's so beautiful and so meaningful, it's like, yes, that's the way life should be? Rush of love goes up through your body and you have tears running down your cheeks and goosebumps all over your arms? You know what I'm talking about. That scene in the movie that just literally overwhelms us with beautiful emotion. Well, the reason that scene basically gives us that experience is because the theme in that scene is directly in alignment with the theme of our heart virtue. So, what if we were to take an inventory of those goosebumps moments, a movie, a book, a human being? If we take that inventory, we would start to see a theme running through them. And that theme would be your heart virtue. So that's what the heart virtue ID process is really all about, taking an inventory of those goosebumps moments. But there's a second experience we have, as powerful and as profound, and completely unavailable for manipulation, just like the goosebumps experience. Have you ever been so angry it surprised you could get that angry? So angry you said things you wish you hadn't said? You did things you wish you hadn't done? Everyone's had that experience. But here's my point. Listen carefully. When you're enraged, would you be angry if you weren't committed to something? Isn't it true that every time you've been enraged, you've been committed to something beautiful that's either being blocked or violated? So in other words, when you're enraged is actually when you're super performing, and the reason you're enraged is because something has violated your heart virtue. So obviously something's incredibly meaningful to you in those moments of rage. So what if we took an inventory of those rage moments along with the goosebumps moments? And those are the two experiences that are way up here, our goosebumps and our rage moments. The way we take the assessment is to take an inventory of your goosebumps, and then we go back and take an inventory of your rage moments, and that helps us fine-tune what the heart virtue is. Because when your heart virtue is being fulfilled, you feel goosebumps, and when it's being violated, you become enraged. And we've all had those experiences. And keep in mind, your heart virtue doesn't change from the day you're born until the day you die. So I can take an inventory of goosebumps or rage moments from childhood or adulthood or any time and identify your heart virtue. If we're going to do that, we want to make use of your second nervous system. Here's the third diagram. Did you know you had two nervous systems? Most people are told they only have one. But I want to leave you with a little quote that tells you a little bit about your second nervous system. Neurocardiologists have found that most of the cells of the heart are neural cells, not muscle cells as was previously believed. They are identical to the neural cells in the brain, operating through the same connecting links called ganglia, with the same axonal and dendritic connections that take place in the brain, as well as through the very same kinds of neurotransmitters found in the brain. In other words, there is a brain in the heart. This fascinated me, so I did a little research and I found out that not only do we have a brain in our heart, our lungs, kidneys, liver, stomach, and intestines are all packed with neural tissue.